Microsoft has recognized us as a trusted partner to work side by side with their team in supporting their customers throughout their Microsoft investment. And like I said, our work is on the Office 365 application. So things like Planner, Loop, Teams, as well as the Power Platform. So your tools like Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI for those insight dashboards and reporting. And we do have such a short session today, so I want to get right into it. I'll pass it to Mia.
Hello, everyone. So our topic today, as Charlene said, is Microsoft Loop within Microsoft Planner. We're going to talk a little bit about what Loop is and why it is so useful. And then what we'll do is we'll have a demo where we go through Planner and we point out the different areas where Loop is there to help and support our teams as we collaborate together. So just in case anyone's not aware, Loop is an excellent tool for being able to collaborate with a team. There are different workspaces that you can set up, and within those workspaces, you can set up different pages, which are all scalable for different levels of collaboration. And each Loop page has these different Loop components that you can add. So the different Loop components are all set up to meet your team's needs. One of the best things about it, though, is it allows you to share tasks and updates with everyone. And one of my favorite things about it is that with Loop, you can take the components and you can share them in different places. And that allows everybody to be able to update their portion of the Loop. And they can do that from whatever app they feel most comfortable. So if they get an email with a Loop component in it, they can update that Loop component directly through the email, and that'll update the source as well so that everybody sees it. As we all know, the more we can do to keep our team updated and provide easy ways for them to update tasks, the better off we all are, because then when we look at our project, we have a much more accurate view. So bringing together all of the collaboration that Loop brings and all of the fantastic task management that Planner brings, we really get another step ahead and a big boost with our projects. So when it comes to brainstorming and collecting input from everyone, Loop and Planner both have some great ways to do that. So we'll look at how those work together. It's also dynamic, right? So throughout the days, a team can go ahead and update in Loop and then make everything display in one common area. So that's what we're going to look into. I'm going to start sharing my screen and we'll start the demo portion. So give me one moment for that.
And I do want to let everyone know that this session is being recorded and will be shared at the end.
Thank you, Charlene. All right, so I'm starting off in Microsoft Teams. We are talking about Loop and Planner today, but there's also Teams that could be at the backbone of all of this. You can choose when it comes to Loop and Planner where you use them. So some of you may be using Loop and or Planner in the browser, which is definitely an option, but then Teams also has these as well. Right now, if you look at my left menu, I don't have Loop there. But if you go over to the More Apps option here, you can type in Loop if you don't see it at the top like I do. But you can select Loop here so that you can add in Loop into Teams. If you don't want to do it that way, then you can always, as long as you're logged in the browser to Office 365, you can use your Microsoft App Launcher to then launch Loop through here. No matter which way you access it, you're going to see similar things, right? So what we're going to see here is that I'm going to expand my tabs here. We'll see that I have a couple of different workspaces. So these different workspaces for me are associated with different teams that I belong to, like a green team, but then also different projects that I'm associated with. So we'll have different workspaces. You can always create a new workspace. I'm just going to open up one workspace so we can take a quick peek. Earlier, I mentioned that with our workspaces, we've got our different items, right? So in the workspace, you might have different pages. Each page might be dedicated to something different. So here you can see we've got a home page. We also have a page dedicated to project planning and one dedicated to meeting notes. So these different pages are all set up with these different components. As we start to look through here, we'll see these different components where we can have data that we're storing in tables, right? We might also have components where we're adding notes or tracking different tasks and making assignments here. These are flexible too. When we add in a component that's tracking items like this, we can adjust the columns that are here, right? We can resize them, we can add new columns depending on the component, and we can assign these to people. That will help to notify them that there is something waiting for them. If I go up to this one, you'll also see that you can personalize it, right? You can add cover pages, you can invite your team, and with any of these, you can add them or see which locations they belong in. You can also copy these different loop components. And if I wanted to get this front and center for everybody, I might copy one of these loop components and then go ahead and drop that into an email, right? Then all anybody has to do is within their email, update that loop component. So lots of great things that we can do here when it comes to tracking work. If I create a new page, just want to show you what the blank canvas looks like. You can start to, add in different parts in here. There are all types of templates that are available. So if you want to get a head start with different components already included, there are lots of great ways to do that. And depending on the type of work that you're doing with your group, you can choose these different parts that'll get included. All right, so that's Loop and how it appears. We've got our workspaces, we've got our different pages, and then on each page, we'll have different components and options to personalize. So working with this, we can collaborate very easily with the team. Once I'm assigned to something that's in a loop, I'm going to bring over my Outlook for a moment. One of the things that'll happen is that I'll get a daily email. So I'm on a couple of different teams that have loops. This is the update I got for today. So the minute my workday started, I got this email with a summary of the different loop items that I either have something that's assigned to me on or where somebody mentioned me. And it's a quick way to be able to jump in and get started on those tasks. So that visibility is great. And then one more thing that I'll point out about this whole area is that depending on where we are in here, there are different places where the AI is involved, right? Or Copilot. So we can see these in here if we need to understand the data or get a summary of the work that's due, or maybe just from a personal perspective, see the tasks that need my attention, just all summarized nicely. The Copilot can help there. So as we go through any one of the different Microsoft applications, or even just in Edge itself, right, we can look out for this Copilot to help give us a head start and make sure that we're not missing anything. With these loops, or with these loop pages, right, these can get pretty lengthy, right? So being able to have the Copilot there to summarize for you can be a really big help. All right, so we're going to talk more about Loop and how it fits into Planner. For now, I'm going to go back over to Teams. Teams is my preferred location to view Planner. And that's just because when Microsoft releases updates, it usually updates those, it updates Planner first. So Planner is a great place to go when you're looking for Teams is a great place to go to view Planner when you're looking for the most recent updates. One of the other things I want to just mention while we're here together is that this week, Microsoft started a refresh of Planner. So I wanted to mention that here because sometimes during these webinars, people follow along with me. And I just wanted to mention that because when Microsoft does make updates, they don't update everyone at the same time. They roll them out. So some days you might see that I have an update and that you haven't gotten it. Sometimes you might have gotten an update and I haven't fully gotten it yet. So if we don't see everything exactly the same, just keep in mind that it's likely due to the refresh that's currently in progress. We can still go ahead though and work with our plans and get through everything that we need to see today. But I'll try to point out some of the latest updates as we go through this. One of the other things I want to mention, just in case anyone is following along, for the Copilot features, I do have a Copilot license associated with my account. So that's what I'm using to interact with Copilot. The rest of it, I am going to create a premium plan during this call today. So I do have a planner license that I'm using to allow that. If you don't have a planner license and you're just using your Office 365 license, there's still a lot that you can do with Planner. And part of the newer updates that are coming with Planner are going to bring more features to those basic plans that you have access to with an Office 365 license. So that's very exciting. And once those are rolled out a little bit farther, we'll be sure to check in with another webinar so that we can show you those features. For now, let's go ahead and do a quick overview of Planner, and then we'll create a plan together, and then we'll get to the fun part where we see how Loop is incorporated into those plans. So in Planner, the first thing that I typically see is my day. What Planner does brilliantly is make tasks visible when you have work to do on them. In this case, on my day, you'll see everything that is due for me today. So it automatically pulled these tasks in from different plans. And this is a nice way to be able to start out the day, right? We saw earlier with Loop that it sent me that nice summarized email letting me know which Loop sections I needed to pay attention to. In Planner, it's bringing my attention to these tasks. All of my tasks are listed here under My Tasks. This is available in Outlook as well, but in the browser, you could also do this in Planner or To Do. So we get to see my private tasks. These are tasks that I've assigned for myself, things that I just want to have as a reminder. The tasks assigned to me are coming from different project plans. And then flagged emails, those are the emails that I'm getting that I flagged. So you can see that the email I showed earlier with everything that I had in Loop, I did go ahead and flag that. So different ways to view these. There's a board view, there's a grid view. So whatever someone thinks is the best way for them to be able to focus on the task they need, they're able to set that up, right? We can have different filters that we apply to these views, right? So this really helps to make sure that each resource that's assigned to tasks is easily able to visualize those and then go ahead and act on them. Now, as someone who does have projects that I use Planner with, I do under my plans have a list of plans here. You'll see that some of them are pinned to the side. So we're seeing those here in the pinned section. Any one of these, if it is something I want to pay more attention to, you could pin from here. And then maybe there's one that we want to unpin. So you get to adjust that and make sure that the plans that you need the most are front and center. With these, I could go ahead and open up any one of these from here and start to work on it. So we'll see our tasks are here. There are different views listed along the top. One of the first things I want to do with us today is go ahead and create a new plan. So I'm going to go over to create a plan. Now, when we talked about the Microsoft refresh that's in progress, this is part of it. So it's a much cleaner interface that we have here. And the options are a little bit more streamlined. So when we're starting from scratch, we can create a basic plan or a premium plan. What we'll do is as we scroll down, we'll see that there are also several templates that we could include if we wanted to. So these will get you started out with some tasks, maybe some goals, and they'll be related to the different topics we're seeing here. So if you're doing sprint planning, this will set you up with the different sprints and have your projects in a backlog and make it easy for you to jump in with this template and get started. We're going to go a little bit more of the longer routes. I'm going to create a premium plan. Choose to create that here. So we'll just name this premium webinar plan. And as a little bit of a head start, one thing that we could do is if we have an existing group, maybe Charlene and Aaron and Jen and I are collaborating on a different project together. So there's a Microsoft group that exists for that. I might want to add that same group to this plan. So that saves me the step of having to add the resources. I'm going to click this down arrow. You'll see I already have a lot of these plans that exist already in these groups. So I'm going to use the search feature and the same resources that I had on this basic plan resources project plan, I'm going to add here. Notice that I could also pin this, right? So that automatically it's pinned, and as soon as it creates, I'll see it here on this menu. Also, this group may have files that are associated with it. So one thing that's great is that you can click here to view the files that are associated with this group. For now, let's go ahead and create our plan. So it's pretty quick and easy, right? Just that few seconds is all we needed to create our plan. We'll see here the views at the top. So we have a place where we can track our goals. We have our grid view where we can add in our tasks and then fill in all the data. Our board view and the other views that are up here we'll see a little bit later on. But for now, let's go ahead and create some tasks. We're going to go ahead and use our project manager agent to help us with that. And what we'll see in a moment here is that we are getting a couple of prompts, right? If we want to start to create tasks, we can go ahead and ask the project manager agent to help us. So what this will do is this project manager agent is acting like our assistant. We're the manager of this project, but this is going to help us with all of the tasks that we need to do. So there's no longer a need to sit here and type out all of these tasks and enter in the data. We can use this project manager agent to help us with that. And what we'll see is that there's also a way to have this project manager agent be assigned to tasks. And that'll be the first place where we see that Loop gets incorporated here. So within a few seconds, we see that the project manager agent went ahead and created these tasks for us. Now, it's always going to give you a little bit of a note here that because this is generated with AI and they don't know fully what we know going into this, we do need to just take a look over these things in review. Later on, that's part of how Loop is going to help us here. It'll make it easy for us to share different components for the team to review and share feedback on. All right, so we could undo this if we didn't like it. We can also go ahead and add more detail. So we might say that we want the project manager agent to create some goals for us, and it'll start to set those up. So there's all kinds of information here. I would say if you are just starting out with the project manager agent, being able to just click through these and get some ideas is really going to be helpful. And then just to experiment a little bit. One of the things that's really great too is that some of these are already commands that are suggested. So we could just click on that and then it's already going to start working. So that gives us a really nice head start with these projects and the tasks associated with them. So what I'm going to do next is go ahead and start to move over to the board view, and then we'll make some updates there. In the board view, the best part about it is that you get to group your tasks in different ways. So it can help you to make updates really quickly. In this example, when we're grouping by assigned to, notice that the project manager is already a resource on this project team. If we want to go ahead and start to assign tasks, we can make assignments really quickly by going ahead and just dragging and dropping. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and assign a couple things to the project manager, the assistant. You'll see that it's assigning me there as well. And what will happen here is that the project manager will take a quick look at these. It'll work on things, and then it'll pass it over to me for input. Now, depending on what tasks I assign to the project manager, it may or may not have the information that it needs to complete the tasks that I've assigned to it. So in this case, one of the things that we could always do with the project manager assistant is if we have files that exist already or a website that's going to help give more information to the project manager agent, we can share those and it'll help to refine the output from this. What I'm going to do is go over to, let's see, I'll go ahead and assign another task here. You'll see that it starts working on this right away. Our grid view is going to show us those tasks that I made those assignments on. So one great thing to always keep in mind is that we really only need to update one place. We're not going to have to go through the different views and update each one. Right. I'm going to go ahead now. Let's check our board view. All right, still working on that task. What I'm going to do to save us a little bit of time, since we have a short session today, so I'm going to go over to another plan where I've also had some tasks that are assigned to that project manager agent. And you'll see here that once a project manager agent completes a task, it may move it over to needs my input if it has questions for me. If it does have questions for me, I'll be able to enter in some answers and then it'll work on the task again. But otherwise, when the project manager agent is done working on a task, it will mark it as ready for review. I'm going to go ahead and open this task. And here is where we see our loop component that's added. So if you've used Planner before, you know that it's got these sections here where we can add in our notes and our assignments. I'll assign that to myself. We could upload attachments and fill in the buckets. So these are all part of a typical Planner task, right? The notes are here too. What the project manager agent and what was added here is this section. So we'll get to see the feedback from the project manager. It's telling us what it did. And then below that, it uses Loop to put in its feedback for this task. So when it comes to the task here, identifying the key features and benefits of Microsoft Planner for task management, this is the analysis that it came back with. Now this is Loop. We can see the little icon there. And notice here, we've got some of the Loop options, right? We can view the shared locations. We could copy this loop component. From here, we could take it and drop it into, there's our loop here. So this is loop in the browser where we were earlier. I'm going to go to my untitled page since there's not much there at all. We could go ahead and, start to add that in here, right? This has different access level, but we could go ahead and share this with everybody on the team. We could take the same component and drop it into an email and then ask people for feedback. But this is now bringing this front and center so that we can all start to collaborate and share our feedback. Now with this particular task, it looks like Copilot did a great job of getting us off to a good start. But sometimes you will see that there are questions that come back for you. And that's when you might want to share that loop component with the team. So it gave us a pretty lengthy, detailed, and thorough answer here. And then as we scroll down, we'll see more of the items that are typically associated with a planner task, right? The effort, the checklist item, the conversations, of course. So that's one way that Loop is working in Planner, okay? If we do get into a situation where the project manager agent is asking us here for input, we would be able to enter in the input and then regenerate. Or if we have a file that we realize we need to update, we could go ahead and do that. Now, there's a question in the chat. With this, I don't necessarily have a premium license, but I have a planner license. There are Plan 1, 3, and 5 licenses, and then there's also the Office 365 license. So with the Office 365 license, or with the license that I have, the plan license, that, and also I have the Copilot license. I don't want to leave that part out. But with this type of plan, it includes this project manager agent. When we go over to a basic plan, this is an older one, but it is still a basic plan. When we come here and go over to our buckets and assign to, right? We don't see that PM agent there. All right, so with the plan license that you would use to create one of these premium plans, then you'll get that project manager agent. That's correct. Okay, so we can see here that the plan that we created together during our time has one of these that's been updated. We can see here also that this is added here. Once it does finish working on this, then it'll add that loop component. We can get over to that from loop itself or just from within this card. All right. In our webinars where we talk about this, we do typically review the different sections here. So we'll see the timeline. The last section here is with reports. This will generate a status report for us. I can see we're getting really close on time, but generating a status report, you can go ahead and specify your time period. And then if there's anything special you want, you can go ahead and add that in here. And then when you generate report, it'll start to create a report for you. I'm going to go to this existing report just to point out that it creates the report, and it does that using Microsoft Loop. So we can share the location, we can copy this component, we can interact with it, and we can also work with the team. I will also show that for the previous ones, before the Microsoft refresh reaches you, there is a Loop tab here that you could click on to open up Loop in the browser. Once you get the latest planner refresh, you'll see that instead of Loop, there's SharePoint. And when you click on that SharePoint tab, what it'll do is it'll open up SharePoint, of course, but all of your different Loop components will be here. So each task that had the project manager agent assigned to it and a loop was created, that'll display here. Right. So that was a quick look at what we are seeing or how we're seeing Loop show up in Planner and how Loop and Planner work together to make everything visible and help us to collaborate as a team with a common set of goals on a project. I want to thank you all for coming. And then Charlene, do you want to show that last slide again with our contact?
Hey Mia, really quick, if you have time, Sue did have a question in the chat, right above
Ooh.
Melinda's. If we have time to just take a look, that would be amazing.
Oh, yes. Okay, so that was back in the loop area. Yeah. So when it comes to meeting notes, right, there are lots of options here, right? And when we're adding in, I think we're on this untitled page, right? When we're adding those in, right, there is a component that is specific to the meeting notes, right? So it helps to give you a good start, right, with what you're planning on for that meeting.
This is Sue. Just the question is when you have weekly meetings, are you adding continuously to that same loop component or that loop page? Or can you make sub pages under that so I can see this week's, next week's, and the weeks after that?
Yes. So what I typically do is, this is a little bit outside of this webinar, but what I typically do that works really well is when I set up meetings, add in the AI component there. And what it'll do is it'll keep that recurring meeting. And each time we meet, it'll start to add in some of these components together. It'll also start to even fill in, what your tasks are based on what came up during the meeting. And then from there, it's essentially this component, right? You can make assignments to people and have that follow up. So then each time we meet, there's like a new entry into that chat.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. And if you need to contact us for a more in-depth demo or to see what happens when you need to track more than just tasks and you need to track a full project throughout the project lifecycle, we are here to show you any of these. We can also talk with you about your options if you're on Project Online and looking for an alternative. We do have plenty of options that are available.